Good evening. My name is Craig Hinman. I'm the coordinator of volunteer services for Bruce House. On behalf of the Snowy Owl AIDS Foundation and Bruce House, we would like to thank you all for coming. And from the bottom of our hearts, we'd like to thank you for your involvement in this event, which means so much. It directly impacts those that are living with HIV and AIDS in Ottawa, and we thank you so much for your time. You'll probably find tonight that with some of our speakers, you're going to feel a great deal of passion. We all have a great deal of passion for what we're doing at Bruce House and the Snowy Owl AIDS Foundation. That's part of what this event is about. So we hope that you'll appreciate that if we get a little teary-eyed every once in a while, if that happens, and you'll appreciate the passion.
The foundation was established in 1996 in memory of my brother Louis, who died in 1993 of AIDS. And Louis was instrumental in getting our family involved in the AIDS movement in Ottawa. I remember being on Spark Street with my mom, and it was a red ribbon campaign, and we'd gone and get all the red ribbons, and this was going back before Louis died. And we're on Spark Street, and we're just trying to get donations for these red ribbons, and some people would come up, and as soon as they'd ask us what it was about, they'd be backing off. People were circling, trying to going on the other side of the lane just to get away from us because we were using the word AIDS, and we weren't even asking for donations. We were just trying to hand out the ribbons. We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. Snowy Owl is really grew to what it is today from our family's involvement in the AIDS movement. What we really want to do is to raise funds for people living with HIV and AIDS. Louis knew how blessed he was to have the support of his family, to have a roof over his head, and to have all of the medical help that he needed. And he knew too many people out there who really had none of this. And this is why he really implored us to support the AIDS movement in the Ottawa area.
Good evening, everybody. How are we? I'm a volunteer host for Taste for Life. It's a great event. Martha turned me on to it years ago, and I'm, as you can probably tell, a little competitive, but I'm also really thrilled and excited to be in this room tonight. Especially, I don't like being on camera, but I don't mind being on camera tonight because this is actually going to extend out to 20 of our colleagues across the province in order to help them become really, really comfortable in being a host or a volunteer at a Taste for Life event. How many of you have done this before? Just hands up. Great. So those that have done it, maybe after we have our social, that's great. I want to first of all congratulate TD for the wonderful work you're doing in our communities across the country, but in particular for this event for Taste for Life. I just want to congratulate you and thank you for really taking the lead on this. And what this is going to do is exponentially leverage this event even further. I know it because I just love TD. So, you know, I think the reason why the PowerPoint isn't working is because the fob that I had my presentation on is encrypted with my TD Waterhouse securities, and I don't want to see what my book value is this year. Right, I'm going to wait till it goes up a bit. So we'll just play with it from there, but thank you for giving of your time because this is really, really important. Now, I host a couple of restaurants in the Toronto area just because I live there. I'm actually from Tillsonburg, so you can't say I'm from Toronto, right? But what happens in our restaurants is that we really do have a power team going. And what we do is, as Craig was mentioning, he's left, but I will reaffirm the importance of establishing that relationship with your restaurant. They are vital to the success of the program. And there's some tips I've put together. Now, fortunately, I always come prepared with a handout. And as you can see on the very first one, you can see a little bit of Mickey Mouse in there. I've had the pleasure of being trained down at the Disney Institute for Customer Service. So I always bring magic moments to you, and I'm always the glass half full type of guy. So I just want to let you know that what you're going to do in the next week is exponentially going to make a difference in the lives of people living with HIV and AIDS. And I can tell you that just from looking at the interest, the enthusiasm. Most of you are in this room probably for the entire day, right? Like for your training, or at least when I was coming in here, some of you were in here. So like, you know, it's now 6:45, and when am I going to shut up so you can go home? Won't be long. I promise this will take 5 to 7 minutes, and then we can get some practice and some things rolling. So one of the things that I've found works really well is just, this is a fun night. You've got friends that you're going to invite to come out to this event, and you're going to send an email. Now, I think it was Katie that was asking the question, what do I have to do? Well, what we have to do is anything possible, whatever's in your means to make it happen. So I'm on my emails, probably 6 weeks ago, emailing and blasting everybody I know on my email list, saying, like, you know, on Wednesday, April the 29th, I want you to go to this website and choose a restaurant. I'm going to be hosting at this restaurant, and I hope you can come to this restaurant, because that single night with you to come out as hungry as you can and ordering as much as you can eat is going to make a difference for somebody living with HIV and AIDS in Ottawa. And it's going to support both Bruce House and the Snowy Owl AIDS Foundation. And all you have to do is go out for dinner. So what a great night to go out for dinner and support a great cause. The restaurant is donating the money, and of course, you will meet somebody at the restaurant that might encourage you to bring along a little bit more to help out the cause yourself personally with a donation. That's all you need to put in your emails, and you just keep blasting them out, and then you can do a reminder saying, oh, I just touched base with the restaurant and we're half full, but we've only got a week to go. So we need you to make those reservations. Hope you'll be coming out. Invite your family, your friends, as many people as possible. Now, as Craig mentioned, when I do my restaurant, I get as many of my friends as possible, and yeah, they might want to sit together, but I tell them right up front, you're coming in for a fundraising meal, so you may not be sitting together with each other, but we're going to be in the restaurant. And if we want to socialize, let's meet at the bar afterwards, right? So it's getting that turnover rolling, so that when they're coming into the restaurant, if there's a bar in the restaurant, that's where they can go to have their coffee. So they're still making money for the restaurant for that night. Got it? Pretty cool? So the first slide after our Taste for Life, we're going across the page. This is my little Disney tip. I don't know if how many of you have been to Disney World, but they actually have job descriptions with 3 points in those job descriptions. The first one is smile, right? So I'm looking at you, I'm giving you a smile. That's really key. So you're going to be there that night. You might be at your table, you might be greeting people at the door, but the first thing that they're going to see is a smile, a warm, friendly smile from a volunteer from this organization, right? Make your restaurant welcoming, organized, and safe. So your job is to make sure that what you're doing is almost harmonious with the restaurant. And we'll get into that a little bit more once we get into the other slides. And safe. This is critical. In our workspaces, where we're working, where we're living, we always have to think about safety. When you're in a busy restaurant and you're going from table to table doing your hosting duties, be aware of your surroundings. I always like to use the restaurant into the kitchen flip door, right? You're not going into the kitchen, but you're walking around where all the servers are with their trays. Right? So just be aware of your surroundings when you're going around to the tables, and watch where your servers are and where you could be where the servers aren't. Right? So if you're interfacing with some guests at the restaurant, go after the servers left or when there's nobody there. But if the server's there, don't be standing by them, like sort of getting them sort of off their key. So there's sort of that marriage that rolls along. But it works really well. So the next slide is on staging your event. So when we go to a restaurant, we want to make sure that it's staged. We're on the stage. You're representing your organization if you're with TD. You're representing Bruce House if you're a volunteer, or Snowy Owl AIDS Foundation if you're a volunteer with them. So there's a staging presence. Now, if I wasn't coming up here from Toronto, I would have actually had on my black short-sleeved t-shirt and my dark pants, because I dress appropriately so that I stand out from the rest of the group. And I'll have my red ribbon on, I'll have my name badge on that says volunteer. And I'm going to get there, if I was with Craig, I'd be getting to see into Craig's restaurant before the guests arrive. I'm going to try to get there as early as possible. I try to get to my restaurant before 5:30, because that's generally when things start to roll. If I can get there at 5 o'clock or 5:15, I can go to meet Craig and all of his staff and give them their ribbons, even the cooking staff in the kitchen should have one of these ribbons on that night, because their role is vital. They're creating a delicate meal for everyone to eat, a delicious meal, and they don't actually see what's happening because they're in the kitchen, but they should all be getting a red ribbon because they're all participating in this together. Thank them for their help, and then get out there and get the audience rolling. So on the checklist for staging, so check in with the restaurant manager prior to the evening of, ask them how the reservations are going, confirm your time of arrival. I'm going to be there, Craig, at 5 o'clock on Wednesday night. I will be expecting. There you go, I'll be there for sure, right? And then, as the question that was asked earlier by our colleague next to Jay, I don't know your name? Richard, thank you, Richard. Richard asked about roles and responsibility clarification. If you can do a check-in personally and introduce yourself to the restaurant manager before next Wednesday, that's fantastic. If you can't get there, at least pick up the phone and let them know who you are and that you're coming that night as a volunteer host for the event, and ask them how reservations are going. Then you can get off the phone and you can get on your email and start blasting out to everybody. This is what I call about email blasts. I don't call these spams, right? I call these really, really critical emails. So each day as we're leading up to the event, we just want to keep sending out the reminders and put at the beginning, excuse the repetitive email I'm sending out, but this is vitally crucial and important, right? And that's all they need to say. I'm volunteering my evening out with you, my friends, and hope you can join me. Right? Once they get that, they won't mind the repetitiveness. And as you can say, we're 75% sold out, we're 90% sold out. They get excited with you. And if you can't come, call me and I'll tell you how you can write your check, and we'll pick it up some other time. So if they can't come, we're going to ask them for a gift. And we'll get into that in a second. All right. So the night of, arrive early, set the stage with name tags. Make sure you got your name tags and your ribbons on. Make sure everyone gets a ribbon before the people arrive, and make sure you have your lovely donation envelopes. Okay? Now, I'm a professional fundraiser, so I don't mind asking people for money. I learned years ago that if you don't ask, you don't receive, right? And it's okay if somebody says I can't, right? What do you do if somebody says I can't? Thank you anyway. Yes, thank you very much, because they can't. They've told you honestly they can't, but they want to leave with a good impression. They want to leave with a magic moment, so that's fine. So we'll talk about these donation envelopes in a second. So once we've got all the check-in, we're all staged, we've got the night going, now it's time to welcome our guests. So when you're in the restaurant, some of you may have a party that's coming and you're going to be having dinner with somebody, just people's heads going up and down here, you're expecting to do that a little bit. If you are, that's fine. It's just warn your party that you might be up and down a little bit, right? Because what you want to do is be with your guests and your group, but you also want to get out and thank and meet the people that are coming into the restaurant. You're going to have two types of people coming into the restaurant. You're going to have people that have made reservations specifically to come for a Taste for Life, so they already know why they're coming. And then you're going to have people that are coming to the restaurant and maybe have made a reservation. They could be traveling and touristing through Ottawa, and they've just fell upon this restaurant and they have no clue about what's about to happen to them. So they're the fun group. I love these groups, and I can tell you, in each year I've hosted at my restaurant in Toronto, I've stumbled upon somebody like this, and that individual writes out a check or stuffs money in an envelope because they're just blown away by the whole experience. So don't miss those opportunities, because they will happen and they'll create a magic moment. Okay, so once the guest's seated, so you're coming into the restaurant, there's a restaurant host that will seat the people at the table. You're usually standing over here at the bar, right? Like, you know, just sort of, oh, here comes their first guest. It's nice. Hi, how are you? They're going over and they're sitting down. Once they're seated, usually they have a few minutes to look at the menu. Usually. I'm not saying in all places, like, you know, but for the most case, you have a few minutes to peruse the menu. That's where you step in. Right? And you're literally coming up, and here's Richard and Martha having a lovely sit down. They've just been seated, right? And somebody, the host or the volunteer, is going to come up and do their introduction. So, hi, my name's Mark. How are you?
Good, Mark.
Hi, you're Mark? Hi, Martha. Nice to meet you. I am a volunteer this evening with Bruce House and the Snowy AIDS Foundation for an event called A Taste for Life. Are you familiar with it? No. You're not familiar with it? Well, wow, I got to tell you, you have chosen the best restaurant to come to this evening for dinner, because your meal, just by eating, hopefully as much as you can, right, you're going to have 25% of your bill donated by the restaurant to benefit people living with HIV and AIDS in the city of Ottawa, in the region of Ottawa. So just by coming here tonight and having dinner and doing nothing more, you are going to make a difference to people living with HIV and AIDS just simply by eating here tonight. So thank you so much for coming to dinner here at this restaurant. It's really exciting. Now, we have some other great news for you. Thanks to our sponsors, that have sponsored this event tonight, we actually have some prize draws for everyone that's coming into the restaurant in order for them to participate. It's a free draw. All you have to do is fill this ballot out before you leave this evening. So I'd encourage you to do it now while you're perusing the menu. And as an option, which we really hope you'll consider, is make an additional donation to support Bruce House and the Snowy Owl AIDS Foundation with a special gift. And you can do that right here, but you're not obligated to make a donation in order to be in the prize draw. So regardless, make sure you fill this ballot out. Once you fill the ballot out, just simply put it in this envelope. And if you'd like to make a donation, I'd encourage you to seal it, right? And you can leave it with me. I'm going to be sitting over here with my group, and I'll check in with you later on just to see how things are going. Make sure you seal it up, right? And leave it with your host at the end of the night or with me. And I just want to thank you and enjoy the evening. Bye. Right? And you're out. Okay? Pressure off a little bit. There's a script here. Okay? Now, why did I make this so small? Now, I have bifocals, so I had a hard time reading it, so I've got to admit it was small. You can cut this out, right? And I've actually done this with my teams in Toronto. You cut this out. So if you just want to stick it in your purse or in your pocket and just, check in every now and then or have a little rehearsal script card. We've all done these before. This gentleman back here, you like these things, right? Absolutely. So what happens with these things, you just cut them out, just check in every now and then and do a little bit of rehearsal. Do it in front of the mirror. I like to do it in the mornings. I feel good in the mornings. Look at myself. I do my little host spiel. And then I go out to the restaurant in the evenings. But that's really what this is all about. It's making those touch points. Now, how many people here are uncomfortable asking people for money? Yeah, put your hands up and be honest, because my hand's up, right? I've been fundraising for over 20 years, and I'm always now anxious about asking people for money, right? I don't get upset about it. I don't not like doing it. I get into a groove. What you'll find with this event when you're introducing it to people, it sells itself, right? All you have to do is get down the part that we are helping and supporting people living with HIV and AIDS in the Ottawa and Greater Ottawa community, right? If they ask you questions about Bruce House or the Snowy Owl AIDS Foundation, you can go on their websites. I'm sure that there's information that you're sharing from Craig and from Martha and from Lise, so you'll learn more about that organization. It's always good to look at impactful numbers. How many people are at the house? 7 at all times, right? How many people are affected with HIV and AIDS in the Ottawa area?
About 3,500.
3,500 that we know of. Right? So it's those types of numbers. This is a real thing, as Lise was saying. Okay, so it's really, really important just to have a little bit of an idea of who you're volunteering with and the cause that you're supporting, but you don't have to know every answer. And you can say, you know what, I'm not sure I have that answer for you tonight, but I can get it for you. Or you can go to the website to Bruce House or to the Snowy Owl AIDS Foundation and find out more about them. And people will be fine with that. Nobody puts you on the spot. I've never been challenged in a restaurant before. Okay, so the script, I did it a little ad hoc. I didn't follow it verbatim, but let's just go through it one more time. So hello, my name is Mark, and I can't even read this. And I'm a volunteer here for A Taste for Life. Are you joining us this evening in support of this event? So if it's a yes, then great. You know why you're here. I would just go right into that. So that's great. You know why you're here. You're here to support Bruce House and the Snowy Owl AIDS Foundation. So have a big meal. I always like to say that Craig was great when he introduced that. We want to encourage fooders, right? And if we don't want to encourage drunkenness at the bar either by ordering bottles and bottles of wine. But like, you know, have a great night. Have some wine with your meal tonight. Have a great meal. Have a 4-course meal. If you're an Italian restaurant, have a 7-course meal, right? But have it quickly because we have to turn over the restaurant, right? It's all going to come to you at once. You're going to eat it and never going to be out. No. What you'll find with the restaurants and the balance with the restaurants is that people will generate this, this feeling it's time to move and it's time to go. And if you see a group, particularly of your friends, you can say to them, you know what, we've got a group waiting for tables and we're here to raise money tonight. Can we move to the bar? Can we move to the bar? I'm not saying get out. Let's facilitate this over. Let's move them along, and that table will become available. Some restaurants will have seating. So you'll have seating number 1 starting at a particular time, seating number 2 at another. Other restaurants will be free-flowing with that algorithmic formula that's going to keep things moving so the kitchen's not swearing out Hell's Kitchen verbals through that flashing door. So you've got the individuals at the table. You're talking to them. Thanks so much for coming out. It's 25%, just so that you're aware that if they ask, well, how much of my bill is going to be supported? It's 25% of the bill supports Bruce House and the Snowy Owl AIDS Foundation. And then when you're introducing the envelope, it really is critical. The best way to introduce it is that we have a free prize draw. Martha or Craig will introduce to you what the prizes are. I'm not really familiar with your prizes up here, but they're fun and they're good to have. Sometimes they will ask, and I have had this at the restaurant, oh, you're collecting my name so I can get mailings from you. All you have to say to them, don't encourage it, wait till they ask, but if they do say that, say, simply put up here, please. Oh, is there? See, my bifocals are right there. I do not wish to receive newsletters, please tick. So it's perfect, it's already on there. So you just say, all you have to do is check this box and you will not be solicited by the organization. But we hope you'll make a gift to us this evening. Because, I don't know how many of you know this, but the amount of money that comes in from the restaurants, right, you will get an equal amount or greater amount in donation slips, right? You will, I can guarantee it. I actually probably get 5 to 6 times more in donation slips because I try to fill the restaurants with people that I know. And the first thing that I do as a volunteer for these events, I don't work for these organizations, folks. The very first thing that I do, and I'm going to do tonight for Bruce House, is this is my coupon, and I'm making a donation myself to this event. And if you do that, you're going to feel 20 times more confident going up and asking somebody else for money. If you've made a commitment yourself, you're making a commitment of time, you're making a commitment of effort. If you make a gift and say, you know what, I've made a gift and I'm putting the challenge out to you to also make a gift, these are your friends and colleagues, you're going to get a little rivalry going here, right? You probably already do at the TD groups. Like, you know, I've got this restaurant, I've got this restaurant. You know, what are our envelopes going to tally up to at the end of the night, folks, right? Because we're going to get the tallies afterwards. But overall, everybody wins because of this. And I can tell you right now that this event's going to skyrocket this year because of the participation we've got in this room. So I'm going to shut up. Check-in and departure points, if you can read these with a magnifying glass, I'll leave them to you. Check in with the restaurant host throughout the evenings. If you're eating, be sure to excuse yourself at check-in with other guests. It really does make a difference. If you have time, check in with your diners and remind them to complete the coupon. So Richard and Martha have been eating. They've had their appetizers. I noticed they're almost finished their meal. I'm leaving my friends. I'm going to go back in and check in and say, Richard and Martha, I just want to thank you one more time for coming out tonight. We're having a smashing success here. You can see the restaurant's packed, and you have made a difference just by eating here. Again, don't forget to fill out the coupon, and leave it with us. And if you choose, and you can make that extra donation, it'll just make things go a lot further. So thanks a lot for coming out. Then you leave them again, right? So it's that check-in, just like the restaurant host does to check in to make sure your meal's okay. And then you leave. If you can stay to the end of the night, make sure, and I always like to do this, and I find that it makes such a difference. I always ask to go back and thank the chefs, right? Because again, they don't get out to the front of the house and they've been making the food. So I always go back and shake their hands at the end of the night and let them know how much of a difference they're making. I thank every one of the wait staff, I thank the managers, and if the owner's there, of course, I thank them, and then we leave. Now, one thing you need to remember, and I think it's because we've got TD hosts and Bruce host volunteers in each of the restaurants, these envelopes, when they're sealed, in order for them to get back for counting the next morning, need to go with the Bruce House volunteers, because we understand some of the TD staff have commitments early in the morning and may not be able to get their envelopes in. So we just thank to make sure that all the envelopes are left with whoever can get them to Bruce House the fastest. Having the host gets them. The reason being is I've found for years in Toronto, we're always waiting on 2 or 3 restaurants to get the tallies in, and especially if there's donations inside, we want to get them processed. How many of you have made a donation and hasn't been processed for weeks, right? It's happened to you before. It gets aggravating. We want to make sure we exceed expectations of our customers by making sure everything is done in a timely fashion. So we thank you for that.
Every restaurant, except a couple, have a host. If you are a host, you are to work with the rep, and the rep is to work with you. But the rep is all the TD reps have all of the envelopes. They will show up at the restaurant. Your time to show up is before 5:30, and the time that you leave is determined between you and the host and what's going on in your restaurant. So if at 10 o'clock there's nobody there, you and the host can say, well, great night, we're going to go home, okay? Each one of the hosts today have received an email, if you haven't checked your inbox, and it lists who your rep is. So you need to get a hold of your rep and say, hi, I'm Carrie Beckett. I'm at the Foolish Chicken. Who's our Taste for Life rep from TD for the Foolish Chicken? One of you is, I already talked to you. There you go. So you can touch base. Who is at Les Fougères? Michelle is the host. Who's the TD rep? In the back, Michelle. See? Touch base with him. Okay? Wellington Gastropub. Here's it's Lise, and here is your rep here. Touch base. Mingle tonight before we break up and see who's in your location. Okay? This will work. It's been proven in the other cities, specifically because of a TD rep being in the restaurant, doing the ask. The amount of money that's in the donation envelopes has almost doubled. You've been great hosts. We want to make it better. So we're going to use this. We're going to use TD. You're going to work together. And I guarantee you that your location will bring in more money in the envelopes. Let's talk about the envelopes. Look in your packet. Those of you that are a TD rep, you have the envelopes. These envelopes are crucial. Your responsibility is to show up with these envelopes. You'll see that on the envelope it breaks down what the grand prize is, the second prize, and the third prize. Everybody, whether they make a donation or not, is eligible for this. The key to this is inside is the ballot. Here's what you want to say that Mark forgot to say. When you fill this out, make sure that it is legible so that we can give you a tax receipt for a donation of $20 or more. Okay? Well, can I get a tax receipt for $10? Okay. Make a notation of that. But the rule of thumb for us that makes it easier for the thousands of tax receipts that are going to go out by Jen, our office manager, $20 or more. I promise you, if you get them to put the donation on a credit card, it'll be a lot more than the cash that's in their pocket, because they're going to go, oh, I need money for Taste for Life. I'm going to go to the ATM and I'm going to get 20. Or where's an ATM? I got to go get some cash. I didn't bring any. They're going to run out. They may get a 20. They may get 2. But if they put it on plastic, they're far more generous. We've proven that before. So they can use checks. Make the check out to a Taste for Life. Excuse me, Bruce House. Sorry, Bruce House, and that's just for bookkeeping. Sorry.
If they make it out to a Taste for Life, we have to sneak it past the bank.
So let me just say that again. Let me just say that again. Try to get plastic, write legibly, and make the check out to Bruce House. Okay? If they do not want to receive any mailing from us, it's on there. We do not share our lists with anyone. Okay? The amount of the donation goes here. And if they would write the envelope number just in case it gets separated, it's on there, you'll see. If they want to do a credit card donation, they can call Bruce House. They can write a check and send it to Bruce House. If they send a check to Bruce House, in the memo, put Taste for Life on the check. Okay?
So that way they're not eligible for the prize. That's where I was going with this. So this makes you eligible for the...
Yes, those that are dining out on the night of. Can I take this home and send it in later? We'd prefer you don't. You know what's going to happen? It's gone. Okay? So, and any questions specifically about this? Be familiar with the information that's there, what the prizes are, because they'll ask you, what are the prizes? Now, as a TD rep and you have the envelopes, these are in numeric order. May not seem like a big deal to you. You've got 50 envelopes. Who cares what? Well, we have 3,000 envelopes to go through when they come back to Bruce House. It really is nice if they're in numeric order. Doesn't matter. It's not a real big deal, but it is on the other end of us opening 3,000 envelopes and recording the number.
Have these numbers been checked with how many you know the restaurant can seat?
We have made educated guesses based on years past. If you run out of envelopes, God love you. Encourage them to call and make a donation. In your pack, you'll find that there are plenty of red ribbons for the wait staff. You can give these to people. You can put a couple per table, whatever you'd like to do. Make sure that you do have your name tag, and everybody got one of the metal pins. Make sure you wear that. That's a gift from Snowy Owl. Also, you wanted some information about the 2 agencies. It's here on this card. When you go to your restaurant, hand this to the wait staff. Okay? This piece here. Also, go to the Taste for Life website. It gives you more information than you'll ever need to know, but just so that you're familiar. Also, you each have a poster that you can put up wherever you think it would serve the best purpose. These list all of the restaurants and tells who are the agencies that are benefiting and all that information. Also, we've given you some of these cards, which is a smaller version of the poster. Hand these out to a friend and say, here you go, this is the event. We really would like to have you. I went to a wedding Friday night. There were 350 guests. Each one of them got one of these because the grooms put them in the bulletin. And all through the service, I saw people going, are you going to Taste for Life? Also, these that you've received, what I really would like for you to do is make a personal visit to your restaurant. It's part of the commitment. I would just like you to do it. Take these to the restaurant. Go in and say, hi, I'm Craig from Bruce House. I'm going to be your Taste for Life volunteer. I'm going to be showing up around 5:30 on Wednesday night. This is a new item this year. What we'd like to ask you to do is, if you would please, the night of, or if you're comfortable putting it out the day or two before. These are tent cards for the tables. If you would please display this for us, we'd greatly appreciate it. It just says that this restaurant is participating in the event and donating 25%.